Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David and in this video I'm going to show you how to play Viking Raiders, a card game for 2 to 5 Vikings, and in this game you will have to buy loot, clan and navy cards, and the first player to get a certain amount of points based on the number of players in each of those 3 categories is the winner, and you can buy this card with the resources you can collect during the game. But why would you collect resources if you can also raid your opponents to get some cards? So please let me show you how it's played. This is a pretty straightforward card game, pretty straightforward to play. There's a Viking deck, this will give you resources and action cards, and there's the market with a market deck. And during the game there will always be 8 market cards in the offering. Also we have a raid protection set of cards that you will put aside for now. This market playmat is sold separately, and there are also single player mats available. You can even start playing this game without knowing the rules, as you don't shuffle the deck as you get it out of the package. It will have some setup cards and that will teach you the game while playing. And once you know the game you can remove these cards, of course. And at the start of the game, based on the number of players and the length of the game you want to play, short, medium or long, you pick the number of victory points you have to collect in each of the 3 categories: navy, loot and clan. So the blue cards, gold cards and the green cards. So say we're with 2 players and we want to play a short game, we'll play up to 5 points. So you keep this visible for all players to see how many points you will need in all 3 of the categories. Then all players will get 6 cards drawn from the Viking pile. Like I said, this will be resources or action cards. Then we draw the top card of the Viking deck to decide who will be the starting player of the game. In this case it would be the player that's sitting most to the north. But each card will give you another starting player, maybe the youngest or the oldest, something like that. When it's your turn, it's straightforward again. First you take 2 cards of the Viking deck. Then you can buy 1 card from the market deck and you can play 1 action card. You can do one of those actions, you can do both actions, but you're only allowed to do both actions only once. Or you can simply pass and then it's up to the next player. So the aim of the game is to get points. We need in this case 5 points in each of the 3 categories. And if I want to buy, for instance, this card, the clan card worth 1 victory point, I need to pay 1 Viking and 1 rock from my hand. So I'll go through my hand to see if I have those cards. And if I can pay, I simply put them in the discard pile and I put this card in front of me and I reveal the market deck. For now I don't want to play an action card, so it's the next player's turn. There are also cards in the market being worth 2 points or 3 points, but I need to have 1 victory points in my area before I can buy a number 2 card, because it says I need a Viking, a bread and a gold, but also I need already 1 victory point in the clan category. But since I have already 1 point over there, I am able to buy this card if I have a Viking, a bread and a gold. And I'll simply put it over here, and so I can start to collect all 3 of the categories. And of course a number 3 card, in this case from the fleet, the navy. I can only buy this card if I have the 4 resources, but also if I have already 2 navy points in front of me. This can be either 2 number 1 cards or maybe 1 number 1 and 1 number 2 card. So that's your basic. Collecting resources to buy the cards you want or need in order to get as soon as possible to the number of points you need to win in all 3 of the categories. But to make the game a little more fun, there are also action cards you can get in your hand drawn from the Viking pile. One of them is the raid card. If you play this card, so you can play 1 action card each turn, you get to raid another player. When you raid another player, you have to pick 1 other player and you get the chance to steal 1 card of that player, and you have to call out if you want to try to steal a clan card, a navy card or a loot card. If I was to be raided, I only have the clan cards, so there's not much to choose. For each card in the category the other player wants to steal, you can take 1 raid protection. So in this case I have 2 cards, so I get to add 2 raid protections. I will shuffle these. And now the raiding player has to pick 1 card from my hand. If I'm lucky, that player takes the raid protection card and then the raid has failed. Unfortunately, he was able to get my number 1 settlement card. So the raid was successfully, and that card now belongs to the other player. I will return the raid protection cards, and now I have only my number 2 victory point clan left. So it could be worse if the raid lost me this card. Besides getting the raid protection cards when being raided, it's also possible to have a berserker in your hand. With this card you can cancel any action of any player. So when the player tries to raid you, you might want to cancel that raid, but you can also use it to cancel any other raid on other players' turns. Maybe if player 2 wants to raid player 3 in order to win the game, you might want to cancel that action with this berserker card. But you can also cancel any other action cards played by any player. Let's see some of those action cards. Draw 3 cards from the Viking pile to your hand. Steal any Navy, Clan or Loot card worth up to 2 victory points from another player. So in this case there's no defense, no protection, you simply steal the card. With this action card you can steal only a Loot card worth 1 victory point. Steal any Navy, Clan or Loot card. So this one is very powerful, you can just steal any card from another player. So hopefully you will have the Berserker when this happens to you. To mix things up, collect all cards from all players' hands, shuffle and take 2 cards at random, and then the rest of the cards are dealt clockwise starting with you. So every player will now have totally different cards in his hand. Take any card from the market, also a number 3. You don't even need the victory points to collect this card. So I could just take this number 3 card while I don't even have any Navy card at the moment. Very powerful. Take 2 cards at random from another player's hand. Draw 2 cards, and you also may play 2 more actions this turn. Nice. With this card you get to look at another player's hand. You can swap 2 cards in exchange for 1 card from your own hand. So a nice trade for you, not so good for your opponent. And for each of the 3 categories there's 1 card in the deck that simply gives you 1 victory point in that category, but you keep it in your hand. So maybe you can claim a surprise victory because you have victory points in your hand. And with Loki's favor you can steal an ability from another player. Abilities. There are 4 abilities in the game. They will appear in the market. They will cost you 1 resource each. And you can have only 1 ability at the same time. So if you get a second ability, you have to choose which of the 2 you want to keep. These are very powerful cards. Surge of Strength. This will help you protecting your cards. If you lose a card in a raid, you get a chance to win it back because you take the card that was raided, you add a raid protection card, you shuffle those, then again have picked 1 card. If it's the raid protection card, the raid failed. And if it's again the card that was raided, then the raid was successful. But this will help your defense. Navy, Clan and Loot cards cost 1 less resource to buy from the market. This one helps you with raids. If you raid another player, that player can draw 1 less raid protection card, but if you get raided, you get to draw 1 extra raid protection card. And the last one, win the game with 1 less victory point in each category. Also very, very nice. Then there are 2 cards in this deck that really will mix up the game. And if you don't like that, you can always choose to remove these cards from the game. They are one-time use anyway. Stormy Seas. As soon as this card appears, all players pass their hand of cards to the player on their right. Abilities, should you have them, are passed to the player on the left. And all players draw 2 extra cards. Then the next player's turn is, and remove this card from the game. And there's also this one, Ragnarok. As soon as this card appears, all cards are discarded from all players' hands. Abilities, should you have them, go to the player on the right. All players will shuffle all the cards they've already built, and you get to pick 1 card at random from the player to your left. And then you get to lay down your cards again, play passes to the next player, and also this card is removed from the game. So these 2 cards can really mess up your game. Or maybe it helps you a lot. Also in the Viking deck there's 1 special card. When you get this card, place it on the discard pile and draw an extra card. At the end of your turn, shuffle the discard pile and all cards in it back into the Viking draw pile. So you'll never run out of Viking cards because at some moment this card will show up. And that is the base game of Viking Raiders. There's also the possibility to play with chiefs. In that case all players will get 1 chief that will give them 1 benefit. For each of the 3 categories, a clan card costs 1 less resource, a navy card costs 1 less resource, or a loot card costs 1 less resource. Or maybe you get one of these 3, Lagata, 2 more raid protection cards when your clan is raided. So only for your clan cards you get extra protection. Maybe you have the one for the navy that gives you 2 extra raid protection cards, or for the loot cards. And this is optional to play with, but it gives each player 1 benefit. Of course, you can also play this game straightforward with 2 players, but there's also an Arctic clan variant. Then you will add a 3rd non-existing player. Every time when it's your turn, you take the top card of the Viking deck and put it to the discard pile. If it's a loot card, like this, that 3rd player will get the top card of the market deck. And so that Arctic clan player will also be starting collecting points. This is, by the way, a nice resource card, Gift of the Gods. It's worth 2 of the resources of your choice. And that is how you play Viking Raiders, a strategy card game for 2 to 5 players. Also won the award for Best Card Game at the UK Games Expo 2023. Pretty straightforward. You start collecting resources to buy the cards from the market. But you can also try to steal cards from your opponents, who have the chance to defend themselves with the raid protection cards. Unless you have a card that says steal instead of raid, but also there's the possibility of having protection by having a berserker in your hand. If you have any questions about this game, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. My name is David, thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.